NeonicVoid Productions presents.
Hello, welcome to Book Watchers, where Jacob is single gentleman. Look at him. He's adorable. Look at him. Come on, look at him. He's so cute,
Okay.
right? All right. Come on now.
Yes, and welcome to Book Watchers, where Devin is Devin.
I'm
Bald.
adorable. But I am bald. But I'm adorable. As you said yesterday, gorgeous. Thank you. I take pride in that. Thank you. I'm like, I can't unsee Rhino from Bolt now. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I'm gonna lean into that because I'm adorable, and so is Rhino. Oh my god. What? Huh? What you mean? Trixie and David broke up. What?
Trixie and who? Wait,
When?
from the drag queens?
Yes.
Wait, not Trixie and Katya.
No,
right?
no. Trixie and Katya did not break up. Trixie had a long-term boyfriend. Oh no, had oh no. 8-year-long relationship, and they broke up. Oh, that breaks my heart a little bit because they're so adorable. Oh, sorry.
I only ever watch on when you send me clips or when I see them on TikTok, but I don't actually watch them and I know nothing about them, so I'm just like.
Well, David's not on there. Trixie has a reality show that goes over the hotel when she bought the hotel, and process of doing all of that. You would see her boyfriend, or now ex-boyfriend. Damn, 8 years. God damn, they bought a house together.
Damn.
Anyway, well, that dreams crushed. Anyway, look at him. Back to Risen Up Jacob. Look at him. Oh my god. He's a single gentleman. He's a big nerd. He loves Godzilla. He loves long walks on the beach, a hike in the wilderness.
Only one of those is true.
You don't like long walks on the beach?
Nope.
Blasphemy.
Well, I don't go to a beach enough. I don't live anywhere near a beach. And when I've been to the beach, I'm never there long enough for me to enjoy a long walk on the beach.
I'm just saying the cliche stuff of long walk on the beach, hiking, because every gay says, "Oh my god, I love hiking," when majority of the time half of them do not.
I love hiking, so that is true. Hell, I spent 6 hours hiking 13 miles.
Look at that. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's a gay man. A gay man who loves hiking. What are you doing? Sucking on the branches of the tree? Of the trees?
Don't sexualize my hobby, bitch.
Oh.
Bottom.
I really need to find some good insults for Tops. I've really got to find some good. I'm going to find one. I'm going to find a zinger. You wait. Your days are numbered. Your days are numbered.
Mm-hmm.
Your days are numbered, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
You may be cute and adorable, but your days are numbered. Your days are fucking numbered.
Just like your left elbow.
Leave my perfect elbow out of this, okay? He's done nothing wrong. I am not gonna break it like my right one.
Ladies and gentlemen, Devin's left elbow is his golden child because it's the only one he has left.
Wow. I sit here and rizz up my BFF and talk about how great he is to try to boost his confidence, and this is what I get.
Yeah. It's a price you must pay for rizzing me up.
Because someone's got to. Until you wake up one day and you accept the fact that you're adorable. Yeah.
Watchers, where the stories are made up and the rules don't matter. We're going to watch the movie anyway.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. You know
You know who we are.
We are.
Mm-hmm. You know who
By this
we
point,
are. We've been doing this for what, 3 years now? 2020, 2021? Whenever the hell we started this show.
Yeah, whenever we started this podcast.
We all know my memory's terrible. I don't remember dates.
Avi.
You don't either.
I remember more than you do half the time.
Yeah, half the time.
Yeah. I'm Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
I got faith. If you look in the description below, you'll see a link to a link tree. That's the other podcast. If you look in the description below, you'll see a link to the link tree. Stop looking at me like that. That'll take you to a link. A link tree. That'll take you to the other podcasts, the NeonicVoid Productions family of podcasts. There, got it. As well as the YouTube channel. Please don't subscribe. Yeah. Okay, maybe Tip's right. I fuck it up every single goddamn time. And you know what? It's on site. It's on site when I see you, Jacob. It's on site. Why do you do this to me? I'm just living my life.
I'm not doing anything.
You are. You're enjoying the misery and embarrassment of me.
Yes, it is pretty enjoyable.
Wow.
Anyway, now that train wreck is out of the way.
Wow, you're calling me a train wreck? Okay.
Hey, at least I don't pretend that I'm not. I know I am.
I'm not a train wreck. Okay. Let me rephrase that. I was once a train wreck. I am a train that got out of the wreck and is back on the rails again. Okay. I know it was a rough year in 2024, my dude. Okay. It was a rough year, but I got it. I'm back on the track.
Anyway, so we're going to be going back to we're going back to our roots today.
Oh.
Because lately we've been just reviewing horror novels, regular small short novels, and of course Devin's new favorite series. What is that series called? Like the overall series called the Iron Flame or the Imperium?
The Imperium series, which is like Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and soon to be Onyx Storm.
Yeah, everyone is losing their shit, and it's like I'm over here like it's gonna be a minute before I read that series because I still gotta finish
all of that.
All of this right here, because there's like a bunch of books over here I gotta finish. And like I usually read when I'm at work because there's hardly anything to do, but for some reason everybody and their mother has decided they want to call all at the same time, and I'm like, y'all don't need that much help. Y'all don't need to. You really like most of the time when they call, that I'm just like, you couldn't have just YouTubed this.
That's fair.
Like, and let me tell you something. With the job I work, there are YouTube videos. There are.
Because I work the same job. There are. There are. But no, I feel that because you have a lot of books. So do I. I literally just bought 2 more. Lucy Undying, which I'll talk about. These 2 I'll talk about at some point this year. Lucy Undying, of course, is a story about Lucy from Dracula who was Dracula's first victim, died. She didn't in this one. She didn't die. She came back to life as a vampire, and this is her story. Lesbians love a lesbian. And then of course this one, I love a lesbian. Lesbians get shit done. Period. You can't count on bisexual or gays. We don't get shit done. Lesbians get shit done. And then this one is a enemies to lovers witch hunter. And I heard about this one. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get all up in this one because this one sounds like fun. And this one sequel for this one comes out this year too. This is the Crimson Moth series, and it's book 1, Heartless Hunter. But these two are some of the books, as well as the series we're talking about today, on the list of things I'm reading. So I feel that my list keeps growing because I keep buying books.
So yeah, yes, and my collection continues to grow. Like honestly, you said you went to went to this little bookstore in downtown San Antonio called Nowhere.
Nowhere bookshop. It's so cute and so
Yeah,
gay. I loved
and
it.
I just want to point out they don't pay us to riz it up,
No,
and they don't
no,
need to because we love it.
they don't.
It's nice.
So
It's a
cute.
nice little nifty little bookshop, and you know, Devin pointed out they're selling a book there, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
They have a nice little selection of course, I'm a reader of horror, science fiction, fantasy, and they have a nice little section of that. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like when I get paid, I'm going back there and buying the Lady Macbeth.
Because of course.
Because the Macbeth story from Lady Macbeth's point of view, because I need that, because that's shit. I love Shakespearean stories. Which one day I might do Macbeth. I might do Macbeth one of these days. As well as Hamlet.
After I'm done with this line of books, the one book series I really want to get started on is the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson because I hear it's really good. And for those of you who know, I've already read some of Sanderson's work, even though it was not technically his, but he was the one who stepped up to finish the story. You know, of course, I'm talking about
Wheel of
books.
Time.
Yeah, the Wheel of Time, the last 3 books. Was it book 12 through 14 or was it book 13 through 14?
I think it was.
No, it was 12, but the thing is, 12 was already pretty much written out by
He just finished it.
Robert Jordan. He just finished it, and then 13 and 14 was completely just going off the source material, the notes. And we are also joined today by my dog Shelly. As you can see, she's making herself comfortable on my perfectly clean bed sheets. And oh look, she's
she's burrowing underneath the blanket.
She's burrowing. She's making her little nest. This is what she does. She rearranges my bed.
She's like, hello.
Like, bonjour. But anyway, so we've literally talked about a bunch of books that we're planning on reading, and yet we're not actually we have yet to talk about the book we're actually going to talk about today.
Exactly.
So, enough dallying, enough dithering and pithering and pillaging and shit. Today we are going to be talking about a book by a wonderful author by the name of Cassandra Clare. For those of you who know who she is, you know, I'm pretty sure you already know which book this is going to be. For those of you who don't know, Cassandra Clare is well known for her series, The Mortal Instruments. So we are going to be going into the Mortal Instruments series, and this is what I meant earlier when I said we're going back to our roots. Oh my God,
that looks terribly blown out. There'll be an image on there. Anyway, continue.
Yep. So the Mortal Instruments is the start of her Shadowhunter series novel. The Mortal Instruments is I think 6 books.
Yes.
Yes, there's 6 books. I've read them all. And did I read them on my Apple? Or did I read them on Kindle? I read them on Apple. That's what I did. Because yes, I did.
You sure did?
I sure did. Yes, I did. Anyway, so the book we're starting with today is The City of Bones. The reason why I said we're going back to our roots because this series has been adapted into several live action features. So of course it was originally adapted into a movie. I'm not really going to talk about the movie because the only thing I need to say about the movie it was that it was terrible.
I saw that in theaters back in the day, and it wasn't that great.
It wasn't that great. I had already read most of the series by that point. Yeah. And I'm just over here like, no, senor. No, ma'am. And I was thoroughly disappointed by it. But I've read and reread this series several times. This is one of my more favorite series. Um, and I was happy that they did decide to um, remake the Mortal Instruments into a TV show instead. It was originally streamed on Hulu,
Yeah.
and there was about 2 seasons. They did make it about like 2 or 3 seasons before the show was ultimately canceled. And the show, I will say, was decent, and they had a more modern take to the shadow hunters and the characters. So like throughout the written story, the main characters, the shadow hunters, who are a race of half angels, quote unquote half angels,
Yeah.
who basically police the shadow world, the down world as they call it. So they defend the world from demons, and they also police the half human populations. So that includes the vampire population, the werewolf population,
Hmm.
the warlock population. Warlocks in this series are a race of half human, half demon. And oh, where'd you go? Okay, there you go.
I'm back. Sorry.
He's back. He's back. And the fourth race that they also govern is the Fae. So if you're very into Celtic mythology and the Fae, Cassandra Clare did a really good job with the Fae in this. The way she's written them, they're very they are very faithful to. She stayed faithful to like um, the stories of the Fae, how they're very mischievous, and how if you're not careful, they could end up like luring you into traps. And most of the time, it's not really lethal being around them, but in some cases, they could trick you into falling into like some sort of charm that makes you dance your ass off until your feet bleed. And
Yeah, that sounds about right.
they also talk about the Seelie and Unseelie courts. And for the most part, in the Mortal Instruments series, they only have dealings with the Seelie court, but the Unseelie court does make an appearance in one of her later series, and I believe that's the Dark Artifices. But we're not focused on that today. We're going to be focusing on the Mortal Instruments, particularly Book One, City of Bones. And I will say this book, it is an interesting book. It sets the stage for the rest of the series, because there's three, aside from the Mortal Instruments, there's now three other series that take place within the world of uh within the Shadowhunter stories. So there
There's
is,
more. There's more than that now. Hold up.
well, there's no, so like there's like standalone novels, and then there's also like there's three other like series,
Yeah.
sequences of books. And one of them is the Infernal Devices, which takes place
Mhm.
like about 1 to 200 years. This is back in the Victorian era
Yeah.
England. And then the other one, the Artifices, takes place after the events of the Immortal Instruments, after the sixth book has ended. And there's another one.
There's
I
two more. There's the
There's
last. There's the last hours, which is
that's the
already
newest one.
finished,
Hmm.
and then there's the Eldest Curses, which 2 out of 3 of the books are out right now.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know about that one then. Okay, learn something every day. And I've only read the Dark Artifices, and I started reading the Infernal Devices, but for some reason I can't. I keep like, I don't know what happened. I look at iTunes and it says I finished it, and I'm like, I barely remember the story. What's going on? So
So, but yeah, there's the Last Hours, then there's the Eldest Curses, and then there's going to be one more that 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 ends out the whole book series as a whole. It's going to be called Wicked Powers, and it's going to be 3 books in that. And the first one for that does not come out until 2026.
okay,
She's a
I
lot.
should. Okay, I need to like go back and read them. Well, I don't. Well, I've already read the Dark Artifices and Mortal Instruments. I just got to
Last
finish up,
Hours, Eldest Curses.
and I got to finish up the Infernal Devices, because the Infernal Devices do tie into the Mortal Instruments. There are several
Mhm.
characters that do appear in the Mortal Instruments that originated from the infernal devices.
Yup.
But anyway, so
Before we begin, 'cause you're not the only one that read this, sir.
put
No,
that finger
no,
down. Put that
no,
finger
no,
down.
no.
Put that
What you
finger
about to
down.
do? You're not my mama. You're not my daddy.
Don't shush me, bitch.
So, now I know a little bit about this series, of course, but from the movie, that sad excuse of a movie. But I've always wanted to read this series, and I thought about doing it for audiobook. Then I stumbled upon an amazing discovery. Apparently, Cassandra Clare loves a graphic novel adaptation. She's had like 2 or 3 of her books, and they never be able to complete the series, The Immortal Instruments. But there's one currently going on. It's a manga that is done through Yen Press with the artist Cassandra Jean. And right now, as of right now, they have the first 4 books out because it's 2 volumes per book. And right now, the next volume is going to be starting the 5th book. And after that, of course, there's about 4 more volumes because there's going to be 2 for the next book and then 2 for the last. And then, of course, they made a manga for the prequels. That's 3 volumes for 1 for each book. So, I mean, I could kind of contribute a little bit. So I know what we're talking about, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going over the actual novels, but I'm going in not totally clueless. So, but if you want to check that out, Yen Press does the graphic novel or manga version of these stories, and it does a marvelous job. I love the artwork of this. So anyway, continue. Go on with the story of the City of Bones, which will be the first 2 volumes of the graphic novel from Yen Press. For those of you wondering. What? I wanted to give the shout out to the artist too.
So anyway, so like we said, The Immortal Instruments is a story surrounding a world where angels and demons exist, and their children fight for either the survival or the destruction of the world. Now, before we actually get into the story concerning the main characters, just to give a little backstory about the Shadow Hunters and the world of the Mortal Instruments altogether. So it really this all starts about 1,000 years ago at the height of the Dark Ages. So back then, demons were continuously materializing in our world, and they were spreading fear. They were terrorizing people. They were massacring entire villages and cities. It was getting to the point where they were almost completely overwhelming the world. And there were pockets and groups of people that were fighting back against these demonic forces. But unfortunately, conventional weaponry has little to no effect on demons. Because the thing about demons is that when they enter our world, they're really not truly entering our world fully. So they can appear in a physical form here, but if you manage to kill one, well, it just vanishes and goes back to the dimension it came from. And so technically, even though you've killed the demon will eventually return if it finds a way. Now, it was getting to the point where humanity was pretty much going to be wiped out, and seemed like all hope was lost. Blah blah blah. You know, the usual. All hope is lost until there was a group of demon hunters led by a man named Jonathan Shadowhunter. These demon hunters figured out a way to summon an angel, and they didn't just summon any angel. They summoned a bona fide archangel, an archangel by the name of Raziel. Now, when they summoned Raziel, Jonathan Shadowhunter pleaded with the angel to grant him and his followers the power and tools necessary to effectively combat these demonic hordes. And Raziel, seeing that Jonathan Shadowhunter's intentions were pure, he granted his wish. So he gave Jonathan and his Shadowhunters, because after this point they began to call themselves by Jonathan's name. He gave them multiple tools. He gave them a book called the Great Book, which contains a list of these runes, angelic runes that will grant them special power. Now, the thing is, on their own, normal humans can't use angelic runes. They just won't work if a human inscribes a rune. Of course, the rune itself will ward off demons, but they won't be able to activate the ability that the rune provides. So, alongside this book, he also gave the Shadowhunters a special material called Adamus. It's a crystalline material. Almost looks kind of like an opaque. It's like a metal, but it's opaque, and depending on how it's forged, it can come out looking very crystal-like. And he showed them how to fashion. He gave them a rundown of how to fashion Adamus into effective weapons and tools, primarily a special kind of stylus tool or like a pen called a stele. And with these steles, the shadow hunters are able to inscribe runes not only on different surfaces to activate their effects, but on their own body. But like I said, they can't use these yet without little extra help. So aside from Adamus and the Grey Book, Raziel gave them 3 instruments: the Mortal Cup, the Mortal Sword, and the Mortal Mirror. Now, the Mortal Mirror, no one really knows what happened to it, and they don't really know what its purpose was. So it's considered lost. The Mortal, or at least they'll actually reveal where the Mortal Mirror is and what happened to it later on in the series, but it's not going to happen here, and I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. The Mortal Sword will make an appearance in this book, and its purpose, it was originally used by Jonathan Shadowhunter to fight the demon hordes, but after he died, it was simply given to a group of Shadowhunters called the Silent Brothers, and they keep it. And the Mortal Sword doesn't have any real special abilities aside from it compels Shadowhunters to speak only the truth. Mm-hmm. So if you're holding the sword, it causes you to speak the truth. Now, the third and most important, probably the most important instrument that the Shadowhunters possess is the Mortal Cup. Because the Mortal Cup, it is a golden chalice, kind of holy grail type of cup made of Adibus, the angelic material, that angelic material, and it is filled to the brim with Raziel's angel blood.
Yeah.
Raziel gave Jonathan Shadowhunter the Mortal Cup and filled it with his own blood, and told Shadowhunter to drink his blood. This will give the Shadowhunters the abilities, somewhat angelic abilities. So it'll make them stronger. They'll give them better, faster and better reflexes, and they're basically they become hardier people, right? They're a lot tougher. They're stronger. They have higher endurance, and most importantly, with angelic blood flowing through their veins, they will have the ability to use the angelic runes to activate them, as well as properly use Adamus to its full ability. Because Adamus has its own unique properties as well. That's tied deeply to the angelic hosts. So, with the Mortal Cup, Jonathan Shadowhunter drank the angel's blood and became the very first Nephilim. So, the Shadowhunters, they are Nephilim, half angel, half humans. But they typically go by the moniker Shadowhunters. And Jonathan Shadowhunter directed his followers to drink the angel's blood as well. So his little merry band of demon hunters became the very first shadow hunters, and from there they set out. They began effectively pushing back and combating the demon hordes, and they started spreading. They started actually recruiting more people to become shadow hunters, to the point where now shadow hunters are found pretty much all over the world, but they're still a very small group. And in modern times, the Shadowhunters have their own secret country. It's a country hidden somewhere in Europe. I believe they said it was somewhere between France and Germany. So like right where the borders of France and Germany meets, there's this little strip of land that's hidden, and that is the Shadowhunter homeland called Idris. And the Shadowhunters formed their own government. They call the Conclave or the Clave, and they now that they've pretty much effectively pushed out a vast majority of the demon hordes, and they've set up wards in place to basically seal off our dimension from large scale incursions. Now, some demons are still able to slip through the cracks, but not as much as they used to during the Dark Ages. And now, aside from the demons, the Shadowhunters govern and police the Downworld. The Downworld is basically this hidden underworld where all the other half human or subhuman races exist. Now, the Shadowhunters, of course, enforce a strict policy of secrecy. Not to like pull from Stephanie Meyer, but they're kind of like the Volturi, but not as gung ho.
Yeah.
Okay, the Shadowhunters can be pretty gung ho though. Not gonna lie. So that's what brings us to our story in modern times. Now, before we start with the full story, I do want to talk about a little bit about some events that happened before everything starts. So, about 15 years before the story begins, there was an uprising in Idris. This uprising was led by a shadow hunter by the name of Valentine. Valentine and a small group of people who followed him, calling themselves the Circle.
Not fucking Valentine. Not that bitch.
Hang on. Pause. My mom's calling me.
Ooh.
Hello? Hey, what's up? Mm-hmm. It's the Experian credit lock, and I don't remember I think we did lock it because I think I did have you activate your credit monitoring because like I set it up for you, and then we did do the text message, or we tried to, but you couldn't get the text, so we had it sent to you through an email. I think it is turned on, but I can't check from my end. You have to log in through your through the app. If it's well, wait, didn't we see the alert that your social security was found on the dark web? We didn't? Okay, thank God. All right. Well, okay, because the thing is, okay, because I can't remember if I had you freeze your credit with the other two bureaus. Because if they go through like if you haven't frozen any of your credit reports, then Equifax and TransUnion should be fine. But so if they run your credit through them, it should go through. But if you go through Equifax and TransUnion, yes, if you haven't frozen them. But okay, cool. So just log into your profile, and there's a section for credit. Like right when you log in, there's going to be like you'll see your credit score displayed. Just tap on it, and it's going to take you to the credit page. And there's like if you scroll down the page, there's going to be a section that says like freeze your credit or lock your or something like that. And you should be able to hold on. I have the app on my phone. Let me double check
I think it's just it's called Experience, right?
Experian. Yeah, Experian.
Experian. That's the only one that was locked. Is that what you said?
I think so. But,
okay.
Okay.
So I have to unlock it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. So when you go into the app, you have to like right when you sign in, you should see a section that says My Protection Summary, and your credit score should be displaying there. So just tap on it, and in the upper right-hand corner of that next page you're on where it says credit, you'll tap on those three dots and then hit credit lock and freeze, and you'll see the Experian credit lock feature there. and it's a little toggle switch, so you can just toggle it on and off.
Okay. Then I'll do that. Let me see if they need that one too. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Huh?
Yeah, if you do it, are you doing it tomorrow or what?
Tonight. Right now.
Oh, you're doing it right now? Okay, well, if you need help with it, call me again, and I'll show you how to do it. Yeah, you wrote it down though, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Bye. I have mom set up on Aura.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I was like, oh shit, because she hardly uses it, but I was just like, well, hey, mom, I can give this like identity protection to you for free. Anyway, where was I at? Oh yeah, the uprising.
Yes, the uprising.
Unpause. So 15 years ago, a shadow hunter by the name of Valentine led an uprising. So him and his small group of shadow hunters that were called the Circle, they all fell into Valentine's belief that the downworld should be purged. So pretty much any non-human race should be completely annihilated. All right, completely wiped out. So the vampires, werewolves, fae, warlocks, all of them should be completely eradicated. And
Oof.
basically, he believes that the shadow hunters should stop hiding from the rest of the world and rise up and take a more active role in the world. Basically, he thought that the shadow hunters should be on top because objectively speaking, shadow hunters are stronger than humans, and because they are graced by the power of the angels, blah blah blah. They should be the ones in charge, and they should take much stricter steps to protect the world from demons. So part of the uprising was to seize all of the mortal instruments, the sword, the cup, and eventually try to find the mirror. But they did manage to steal the cup, and there was a massive it was basically like a revolt in the heart of Idris. But unfortunately for Valentine, his circle was overwhelmed, and they were all either executed or arrested. Most of them were arrested. Several of them were given amnesty for providing information. Some of them were put on like permanent house arrest. Valentine was believed to have died, but no one was able to confirm his death, and he had disappeared, and no one knew where he went.
Fucking weird.
So I'll go ahead and just tell you guys right now. The story follows Valentine's daughter, Clarissa Frey. Now, after the uprising, leading up to the uprising, Valentine's wife, Clary's mother, I knew I was supposed to do something.
Ooh.
Jocelyn. So, that's her name, Jocelyn. So, Clary's mother, Jocelyn, she was at one point married to Valentine, and she was a member. She was a member of the Circle. Thing is, towards the end, she had become disillusioned, and she decided to turn against Valentine, and she did this by stealing the Mortal Cup right from under Valentine's nose, and Jocelyn disappeared from the world of Shadowhunters. She abandoned Idris. She completely cut herself off from the Shadowhunters, and also in some cases she cut herself off from the Downworld. And the thing is, she was pregnant with Clary at the time, and when she made her escape, she eventually gave birth, and she decided to raise Clary as a normal person. The thing about shadow hunters is that they have the ability to see through glamours.
Yeah.
The typical glamours that many downworlders use to hide what they truly are.
Mhm.
So warlocks typically have some sort of inhuman feature that is either difficult to conceal or very noticeable. So like a cloven hoof, wings, cat's eyes, purple or pink skin, and shadow hunters can see through these kind of glamours, and it's the same with the Fae. So the things that typically hide the downworld from humans, shadow hunters can see through. And what Jocelyn ended up doing as Clary began to notice more, as she grew up and she began to notice more and more of the downworld, Jocelyn hired a particular warlock to cast a memory spell on Clary. So for the first 15 years of her life, her memory of the downworld was continuously being suppressed and blocked. So technically, she could still see into the downworld, but because of the spell blocking her memories, it basically caused her to gloss over those features. So,
Yeah.
oh look, there's a dude with antlers walking down the street. Nothing to see there.
Of
So,
course.
so she lives her whole life not realizing that there's an entire world existing alongside the normal world. All right, that is until she's about 15 years old. Clary is spending time with her best friend Simon, and they're out and about. This is taking place in New York City, as in the Big Apple. And as they're spending time, they're going out. They're being dumb teenagers. They come across a nightclub, and what draws Clary there, she notices strange markings on the sign of the nightclub. The nightclub in particular is called the Pandemonium. So she convinces her best friend Simon to go with her into the club. They're having a good time until she notices that there's three strange teenagers following appears to be an unassuming guy a into a storage closet. And the thing is, what caught her attention was that all three teenagers were armed to the teeth with all kinds of weapons, strange looking
Yeah.
swords. One dude had a bow. One dude had like a weird crystal looking sword. The girl that was with them had a strange golden, like she was dressed like. Let me tell you something. The girl that was with them, I'm gonna tell you right now, her name is Isabel Lightwood, and this girl was dressed to impress,
Oh yeah.
and she was, what she basically did was like she led the guy into this unassuming guy into the into the storage closet, and Clary noticed that she was covered like parts of I'm sorry, she didn't notice the runes because her dress was designed. Isabel's dress was carefully covered the runes, but she
Yeah.
noticed that there was two guys following Isabel and this rather unassuming guy into the storage closet, and they were armed to the teeth. So
Gee.
Clary, when she curious, she follows them and sneaks into the storage closet, and and right as she enters the closet, she sees these three teenagers brutally murder this guy. And what's even more confusing is that as soon as they run him through and like stab and hack him down, he vanishes.
Yeah, you sure do.
Mm-hmm. She freaks out. The three kids, as it turns out to be shadow hunters, they notice her, and Clary threatens to report them because she just witnessed what she assumes is a murder. And the thing is that they're confused, but they're like, okay, go ahead, see what happens. Clary, before she can call for help, her friend comes into the closet and is wondering like what's going on, and Clary tells him like these guys just attacked this kid. And when Simon looks at where she's pointing, he doesn't see anything.
Yeah.
Does not see anything. And Clary is confused, and she's
Well,
somewhat traumatized. She's somewhat traumatized, but
Yeah.
there's nothing that she can do. She eventually just takes off, and she not and at first these guys want to are curious as how she can how a normal looking girl like her, who they often refer to her as a mundane. The shadow hunters often refer to humans as mundanes, and it's kind of funny. It's one of those it's that little niche that a lot of these kind of fantasy youth novels do. Like there's like a if there's like a magical world, the people of the magical world call regular humans by like some weird name, like of course
Muggles or
muggles, the mundanes, all right, something like that. And so Clary ends up leaving the pandemonium, and she for the most part goes back to her life. But slowly over the next few days, she starts noticing things are different. She strange things are off, and some things are not as what she remembered them to be. And for Clary, she's very set on living her own normal life. She's an artist, and she had recently, up until this point, had been accepted to like a prestigious like art school for like an arts program. But just before she's set to go through, like get started with it, her mother pulls her aside alongside uh, their family friend, guy named Luke, uh, and they tell her that they're planning on taking a summer trip to this family cabin. And this is upsetting for Clary because the thing is that the program will overlap with their supposed trip. And she was very upset because her mother was very adamant that they need to go. Though while they're arguing, you can note that Luke is also somewhat on the fence about it and keeps making comments about we should just we should just let it happen. Some like kind of like sort of like shared. Him and Jocelyn have these like shared moments of like they know something's up and they're not telling Clary the whole story, things like that. So Clary, in a huff, ends up walking out of her house and goes spend time with her best friend Simon. And let's see here, while she's out, she comes across one of the boys that she encountered at the Pandemonium. This boy, his name is Jace. I will say this: Jace ends up changing his name multiple times.
Yeah.
And that's because like his heritage is very confusing. So like what was the original? Yes. So originally he introduces himself as Jace Whalen. Jace is more of a nickname. His real name is Jonathan Christopher, or JC, or Jace.
Mm-hmm.
And Jace explains who he is, that he and his friends were shadow hunters. So Isabel Light and her older brother Alec Lightwood, they are apart. He explains that they are shadow hunters, and he's curious Jace shows that he's very curious about Clary and how is it that she's able to see through their glamour, because shadows that hide them from Mundane's sight. And while they're speaking, Clary does get a call from her mother, and Clary, who's still kind of reeling from the revelation that she can see into the downworld, she picks up because she'd been ignoring her mother up until that point, and when she picks up the phone, she hears her mother frantically telling Clary to stay away from the house. She sounds like she's in trouble, and she also hears noises in the background that sounds something like there's a fight going on in their house. So panicked, Clary rushes back to her home, and what she finds is that her house has been her apartment has been completely turned over. All right, everything, furniture's broken. The walls are torn up. It seemed like the whole place had been ransacked. and she realizes her mother is missing, and before she can really like think of what to do next, she is attacked by this monstrosity of a creature, like kind of like this scorpion-like demonic creature. It attacks Clary, and she freaks. She tries to defend herself, and Jace ends up showing up and manages to kill the demon before it can do any harm. Uh, that is, the demon did manage to sting Clary. Some of its blood did get on Clary, and demon blood is venomous. It's very toxic, so it
Yep.
managed to get onto her and injure her. So Jace was forced to take her back to the Shadowhunter Institute. Now, Shadowhunters, they've established sort of like safe havens in every major city around the world. So New York, their safe haven or institute is located in an old abandoned church. So on the outside, it looks like an old, closed down, and condemned church. But for those who can see through it, they can see that it's a fully upkept and brightly lit institution. Jace takes Clary there to be treated. Just as she's starting to feel the full effects of the demon venom, Jace makes a bit of a hasty call, pulls out his stele, and traces a healing rune on Clary's skin. Now, I will tell you this: that was a very dangerous move
Yes, it
because
was.
the thing about humans is that humans are not compatible with angelic runes. All right, the power that flows through an angel's rune is just too much for a human to handle, and at the very least, it will drive them insane. At the very worst, it will mutate them and turn them into these like kind of like rage monsters.
So he was taking a risk doing that.
Yeah. But, well, turns out the risk paid off because, as it turns out, she
It
is a
worked.
shadow hunter. It worked. Okay, cool. So, dodge the bullet right there. Woo.
Yeah.
So, after she recovers, Clary she is introduced to the rest of the denizens of the Institute. So, at that moment, it's just Jace, the Lightwood siblings, and their mentor, a guy by the name of Hodge. Now, we later learn that Hodge was a former member of Valentine's Circle, and in the wake of the uprising, he was given some form of clemency for information on what Valentine was trying to do. And so instead of just being completely imprisoned, he was just simply exiled he was exiled from Idris and placed on house arrest inside of the New York Institute. So Hodge cannot physically leave the Institute. He's stuck there. And I mean, it is a fitting punishment considering what the Circle and Valentine did. So he is basically it's not a bad deal. He's in charge of running the Institute, and he was also left pretty much put in charge of training the Lightwoods and later on Jace Whalen when he arrives. Because as far as we know about Jace at this point, he's an orphan. He was he originally lived in Idris alongside his father in a manor in the countryside outside of the main city. But one day his father was I believe the story was his father was murdered by like either downworlders or he was killed in a demon attack. And because of that, either way, as far as you know, his dad is dead, and he was sent to live with the Lightwoods in the New York Institute. So he ends up growing up alongside the Lightwood children, and eventually, him and the oldest Lightwood child, Alec Lightwood, they become best friends, and they decide to become each other's parabatai. So Shadowhunters, there's a special kind of ceremony where they are bonded with a sort of like a partner. It's not like a romantic partner. This is more of like a combat partner, or your battle buddy.
Even though Alec is totes gay.
Yes, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the LGBT exists in the Shadowhunter world. Alec Lightwood is a flaming homosexual.
Oh, flaming. I love it.
Yep. He's a little bit repressed because the thing about the shadow hunters is they are pretty old fashioned
Yeah,
and for
unfortunately.
not exactly accepting of anything that's outside of the traditional norm. But eventually Alec does come to be accepted by his family, and well, of course, Jace accepts him for who he is. But
Yeah.
at this point, he's still in the closet, and there was a bit of a hilarious confrontation between him and Clary. Clary instantly calls him out for being in love
He's
with
gay,
Jace,
right?
and she even like asks his sister, and
Sister.
Isabel is just like,
How'd you
"How'd you
know?
know?" I mean,
Gaydar, babe.
it's kind of obvious.
It is. It really
But
is, especially in the
uh,
graphic novel.
yeah, and the thing is that of course Jace is straight, and
Yeah.
uh, being parabatai, they can never become romantic partners because there's a big taboo about parabatai becoming romantically involved. Um, I won't go too much into that. The thing is that being a parabatai is not just a title. There are actual runes that are traced on each partner. So like Jason, Alec actually drew a special rune on each other. This rune is permanent, and it basically creates an emphatic link between them. So they are aware of each other. They have more insight into each other's uh, emotions, and because of this makes them better in terms of combat. So they're able to watch each other's back more effectively and respond to each other while they are out in the field. So having a parabatai bond is considered very effective and very useful. Um, so Clary learns all this, and she is eventually taken before the Silent Brothers in the City of Bones. Now, the City of Bones technically does not exist underneath New York, but it has entrances near every major institution. So the City of Bones, what it is basically is it's like one big crypt.
Yeah.
So whenever a shadow hunter dies, they are cremated and their ashes are turned into like a sort of kind of like a mortar or like a material which is added to the City of Bones. So
Yup.
so basically the City of Bones is this big kind of underground uh quote unquote city where it's not only where all shadow hunters are entombed, it's also where the an order of shadow hunters called Silent Brothers have their headquarters. This is where, and so the Silent Brothers, they are a group of shadow hunters who have chosen sort of they're kind of similar to monks, like like abbot monks.
Yeah.
They choose a more pious life, and their role is to basically uphold the histories and the traditions of the shadow hunters. They take on roles of like healers and advisors, and they're kind of like uh, they're kind of like the judicial system of the shadow hunter society, because the clave are the ones that make the rules, uh, while the Silent Brothers, they uphold the traditions and they interpret the laws. And the City of Bones was also the resting place of the Mortal Sword, and they also at one point kept the Mortal Cup there as well before it was stolen. And
Mhm.
the most shocking thing about the Silent Brothers is that they purposely place the strongest runes from the Great Book onto their bodies. They take on these very powerful runes. And the thing about these runes is that it does cause their bodies to deform. So even though they do have Raziel's blood in their system, these more strong, powerful runes are still a little too much for them to handle. So while they are able to place the runes on their body, it does cause their bodies to become disfigured. So whether or not this is done as part of like part of their ritual, the Silent Brothers they all typically wear this kind of like grayish, almost like I believe it's like a brownish or like paperous kind of robes, and they always wear their hoods. They always have their hoods up. Their mouths are stitched closed, so their lips are. You can see their lips, and they're all stitched closed. And
Yeah.
where their eyes are just empty sockets.
Mm-mm.
So that's part of. Now we don't ever really see the full extent of a Silent Brother's deformity, just their face. So they're kind of hard to look at, but and the thing about the Silent Brothers is that they can only communicate telepathically. So first time Clary encounters them, she can hear their voices in their head. They take her down into the City of Bones, where they perform a test to determine her heritage and where she comes from, and that's when they discover she has that some of her memories are missing, but they are able to determine that she is a shadow hunter. Her mother is Jocelyn Frey, or as she was originally known as Jocelyn Morgenstern, and her father is Valentine Morgenstern. So, still, they do determine she is a shadow hunter, uh, and that her mother was once the wife of the criminal Valentine, who led the uprising, and is her father. Woo, fun, great.
Yeah.
And she also learns from that her mother had stolen the mortal cup to keep it out of Valentine's hands. Um, Thing is, Valentine had wanted to use the mortal cup to increase the Shadowhunter numbers, but not because to better police the world, because Shadowhunters, their numbers are slowly dwindling, and making more Shadowhunters the traditional way is taking a little too long. So Clary searches for more information about her mother's whereabouts alongside Jace, her friend Simon, and the siblings, and the Lightwood siblings. Their search does lead them to Clary's neighbor, a woman named Madame Dorothy, who reveals Clary's memories were blocked after she performed a tarot reading. Clary does note that the tarot cards that Madame Dorothy was using were cards that were hand painted by her mother. And Madame Dorothy reveals that this kind of memory block can only be performed by a high warlock. And as it turns out, there is a high warlock in New York, a warlock by the name of Magnus Bane. Now, Magnus Bane, the way he's described in the book is he's of like Indonesian descent.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about warlocks, as I've said before, is that they have some form of physical deformity that makes them stand out. Sometimes it's a cloven hoofs, or it could be clawed hands, horns, multicolored skin, or in Magnus's case, cat's eyes. So his eyes look like slitted golden cat's eyes, and they end up approaching Magnus Bane. He was in the middle of celebrating his cat Chairman Meow's birthday.
Yeah.
Chairman Meow.
Or meow.
Honestly, I did not get that reference until I learned the name of the Prime Minister of China at the time, whose name is Chairman Mao, who was Chairman Mao. And then I thought about that. I was just like, Magnus Bane, you cheeky bitch. Anyway, so Bane reveals that her mother had hired him to cast a spell on her to block her memories of the downworld. The reason why Clary was able to see Jace and the Lightwoods at the Pandemonium was because her memory spell was beginning to wear off. The thing is, Bane had warned Jocelyn that the older that Clary got, the shorter the time frame between each spell would become shorter. So the spell would wear off a lot quicker as she's getting older and more mature. And thing is, he also revealed
Jacob. Oh no.
Very son. And he does this by pulling out one of his grimoires, and inscribed in the grimoire is a special kind of angelic rune. So, of course, if you've seen the cover of the Mortal Instruments, or you've seen any of the movies, the one rune that they use is like this. It's kind of like, I don't know what the pattern is called, but it kind of looks like a chevron, or like an upside down, like an arrow pointing down, but it's stylized, so it kind of looks like a half figure eight. I don't know what to describe the shape, but this rune is actually a rune of revealing. So often shadow hunters inscribe, it's a permanent rune that shadow hunters inscribe on themselves, which helps to boost their ability to see through glamours and the downworld. So he gives this to her, and after studying it, it's supposed, just being able to see the rune helps her to her memories to start clear up and make it more easier to see through the downworld. While at the party, Simon and Isabel are mingling with the downworlder guests, and one of the downworlders kind of tricks Simon into drinking a blue cocktail.
Yeah.
And Isabel did warn him not to drink it, but
turns into a rat.
Yep.
A cute little rat.
He gets turned into a rat, and unfortunately a vampire, mistaking the rat for one of his friends, picks up the rat and takes off with him. So poor little Simon Rat gets kidnapped by a vampire.
Unknowingly.
Yep. So Clary and Jace have no choice but to chase after the vampire, and they track him down to the vampire, to this large vampire nest, and they do manage to rescue him from these vampires and turn him back into a human. But this is not before they have a big confrontation with the nest. They do fight off a large number of vampires, and poor thing. Poor thing. They managed to turn him back, and he is forever traumatized.
Scarred. Yep, he's forever scarred.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. They take him back. So they end up taking Simon back to the Institute, and from there, and while he's recovering, Clary and Jace share a bit of an intimate moment. They kiss. Teenage angst bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing is that since it was Clary's, was it Clary's birthday? I think it was.
I think it was.
Hold on, let me double check. Yep. So yeah, it was her birthday. So Jason found out that it was her 16th birthday, and he takes her up to the Institute's garden, and where he gives her a rock made out of adamus. But this rock is kind of like a tool used by shadow hunters because it has a rune that causes it to light up. So it's like one little bright rock. And it's when they're in the garden, they they kiss. Ooh. But it was right at that moment that Simon walks in and kind of gets a little butthurt because he had his own feelings for Clary, and he ends up storming out of the Institute and leaving. When he showed up, Clary pulled away, and she kind of dismisses Jace's feelings on the matter, and this kind of hurts him. And well, in very Jace fashion, he responds with sarcasm and wit and walks away.
Yeah, he's heartbroken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Clary's kind of in a kerfuffle. So she trying to figure out what she's going to do, about this whole situation. She's in her room. She's drawing in her sketch pad because at the end of the day, she still is an artist who's still very passionate about her work. And as she's drawing, she gets distracted, and she had been scribbling runes that she had already learned from the guidebook she had been given. And
Yeah.
thing is that she didn't realize that with these runes, she'd figured out an ability that she shares with her mother. Um, while she was distracted, she had placed her cup of like coffee. It was coffee or tea, whatever. Whatever it was. It was a coffee mug. She had placed it on top of her sketchbook while she was distracted, and when she looks back, she realizes that her coffee mug has gone completely 2D.
Yeah.
And when she look at carefully examining it, she reaches down and she manages to pull a coffee cup out of her sketchbook. And she realizes that she discovered her little talent of being able to hide objects on paper using runes. And
Then it dawns on her.
her mother could do this, probably could do the same thing. And she realizes she thinks she knows where the mortal cup is hidden.
I think I know where that cup's hidden, girl. Let's go talk.
Mhm.
Let's go back to that tarot deck that warlock has, or the
Madame Dorothy.
practitioner. Yeah,
Madame Dorothy is more of just a medium. She's not really. She doesn't have any
Her
real
mother
magic.
her mother was a warlock, but she's just a practitioner. Yeah.
Yep. So she and the Shadow Hunters head back to her apartment, and they visit Madame Dorothy. They convince her to let her look at the tarot deck, and after shifting through it, she finds I believe it was the Ace of Cups or something like.
Yeah, I think it was the Ace of Cups.
And painted onto the cup was an exact replica, all the way down to the detail of the mortal cup. Now the Shadow Hunters, they had seen this particular cup before. They had seen this card before, and when they saw it, they were like, "Huh, that looks like the mortal cup." The likeness is uncanny. And
Yeah.
Claire is like, "Yeah, it is," and she reaches in and pulls out the actual mortal cup. So they have the mortal cup.
And I'm just like, ooh.
Like, oh, cool, we have the cup now.
Oh shit, we have the cup.
And everything that, of course, they found the missing artifact that could help them find her mother. And of course, right when they find it, that's when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, of course.
So, unfortunately for Madame Dorothy, Valentine had already gotten to her, and unable to find the mortal cup, he sets a bit of a trap for anybody who may be coming to look for the cup, because he believes that Dorothy, while she doesn't know where the cup is, somebody who does know may come back and speak with her. So what he had done was he had summoned a greater demon to lie in wait. And this particular greater demon was a very nasty one by the name of Abaddon. For those of you who follow Christian mythology, you'll know that Abaddon was depending on which version, depending on like which mythology you lean more towards. In some iterations, the mythology states that he is a demon, and others they say that he's actually an angel.
Yeah.
In any case, in the Christian mythology, demons are just fallen angels.
Yeah, more or less.
So either way, it is interchangeable. But Abaddon in Christian mythology is the demon of the abyss, and during the apocalypse, he's supposed to rise up from the pit, and and lead an army of locusts and things like that will terrorize the earth and blah blah blah.
Sent by the hands of God Himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And so thing is that he had possessed and puppeted Madame Dorothy's body, and because of this, he uses her to open a doorway. Now, for some reason, in Madame Dorothy's shop, she had access to a special kind of portal.
Yeah.
That typically just lets her travel anywhere she wants to go. You just think of it, and it'll just take her there. But thing is that it could also be used by demons to open a portal into their dimensions. And Abaddon uses her to open a portal to his dimension, and he physically starts to cross over. And the Shadow Hunters and Clary are freaking out because like it's a freaking greater demon, and it attacks them. They defend themselves, and the thing is, they're not really doing so well. And but just when it seems all is lost, Simon, who I guess decides to pull his head out of his ass and come search for Clary, shows up. And thing is, Simon himself had taken archery lessons, and during the fight, I guess Alec, who was the archer of the group, dropped his bow and arrow, dropped his bow and his quiver, and Simon had managed to show up. He grabs the bow and he shoots a hole through the skylight windows, allowing more sunlight to show through. Sunlight hits Abaddon, and well, thing is, demons don't do so well in sunlight, so Abaddon gets his hold on this reality, like his hold on being able to appear in our reality, gets disrupted, and he basically gets banished back to his. They manage to close the portal and escape. So cool. They just had a very close. They just had a very close encounter with a very dangerous greater demon. But now that they have the cup, they know that they can. They're one step closer to finding. They're one step closer to finding Clary's mother. Yeah. They bring the cup back to the Institute, and it is there that Hodge reveals that he's not as reformed as most people would have thought. Thing is, though, I will give Hodge this: he did not want to rejoin the circle, but what he does end up doing. What he does end up doing is he summons Valentine to the Institute. He knocks out Chase. He knocks out Jace and the Lightwoods. And while Clary's distracted, he hands over the Mortal Cup. And he gives the Mortal Cup to Valentine. Valentine owns up to his end of the bargain and breaks the spell that was placed over Hodge, containing him in the Institute. Now, Hodge is free to leave whenever he wants. Valentine takes the cup and an unconscious Jace and flees through a portal that was open into the Institute. Clary tries to pursue Hodge, but the thing is, Hodge is a fully trained shadow hunter, so she's literally no match for this guy. So he does attack her. She does manage to follow him outside of the Institute, but he confronts her in an alleyway not far from the Institute, and before he can do anything to hurt her, I'm losing my train of thought. Clary's family friend Luke shows up and attack and defends her from Hodge. The thing is, Luke shows up in his furry form, because as it turns out, Luke is a werewolf.
Of course he is, and he's gay. Not Luke. Sorry, wrong guy. Never mind. Continue. Sorry. Continue.
No, honestly, like,
gay?
No, he's not.
That's what I thought.
No, see, Luke is he was once a shadow hunter, and he used to be Valentine's best friend. Mm-hmm. In fact, he was also a part of the circle. The thing is, though, because of Valentine's hardcore anti-downworlder belief, when Luke was infected by lycanthropy, Valentine basically just turns his back on Luke, and at one point he even fuck, I'm forgetting all the woke terms here. What do people say about like when it comes to trigger warning? There you go.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Trigger warning. At one point, trigger warning, Valentine even tells Luke to just kill himself because he'd been turned into a werewolf. Instead of doing that, Luke just ends up leaving Idris and joining a werewolf pack. But then later on, he learns of the uprising and learns that Clary's mom, Jocelyn, who was his best friend growing up, had fled from Idris, so he decides to track her down. He eventually finds her a few years later, and also that is when he's introduced to a young Clary, and since then he's stuck close. Luke, in a short period of time, he had managed to take over the one of the werewolf packs in New York, and basically became the alpha of the pack. With this pack, they are able to track down Valentine's location, and it's there. She not only finds her unconscious mother, her mother. So her mother, the way she finds her mother is in an unconscious state. She's chained to a bed, and for some reason, no matter what Clary tries to do, she won't wake up. That's when she also encounters Valentine, who reveals that Jocelyn had taken some sort of potion that put her into a deep sleep. So beauty. Sleeping Beauty kind of deep sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, true love's kiss will not wake her up.
Oh no.
Nope. But it's also there that Clary finds that Jace is there, but he's not being restrained or held prisoner like like she is or her mother is. Jace reveals that Valentine is actually his supposed dead father.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Valentine does confirm that Jace is his son, which also confirms that Jace and Clary are siblings.
Oh, it got weird. Well, they probably didn't know. So
they didn't know. At this
didn't
point, but before the incident at Pandemonium, they had never met each other before.
That's fair.
Yeah, so that kind of kills any future thoughts of romanticism between the two of them.
Sure does.
The thing is that Valentine realizes that his location being compromised and his followers are being overwhelmed by Luke's werewolves. He decides to vacate his hideout. So he uses a special portal and opens a gateway into Idris. So Valentine flees through the portal into Idris, and the thing is that the portal actually opened itself into the countryside just outside of the manor that Jace had grew up in. And he tries to convince Jace to return to Idris with him. But thing is, now that Jace knows who Valentine really is, he's very conflicted and torn because, he loves his dad. All right, his dad wasn't a terrible... Well, growing up, his dad wasn't a terrible person. He was a decent father at the very least.
Yeah.
If not a little harsh. But still, Jace refuses, and Valentine steps to the portal and smashes it and destroys it behind him. Because this portal was like a special, like permanent portal, but Valentine destroys it, completely sealing it. So now this is pretty much where the story comes to an end. They manage to take Clary's mom. They get Clary's mom out of Valentine's hideout, and she is taken to hospital care where she's placed and put under observation. But still, no matter what, she does not wake up. And now our two star-crossed lovers are left to deal with the fact that they now realize they can't be together because they had begun to develop romantic feelings for each other. But now that they know that they're actually brother and sister, it ain't gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, I ain't gonna go anywhere.
So, for the time being, they're left to sort out their own emotions. The Institute is in disarray because the head of the Institute, basically betrayed everyone and fled. Now been confirmed and is planning on building up to Immortal Cup. So this is where the book ends. This story wasn't very long. None of the books are very long. They're being young adult youth novels. They're not very young. They're not very long. Let me see here. How long was this book? That is the wrong app, sir. You know, if I had all of my ebooks on physical copies, I would have shelves upon shelves.
Same.
Are they? I'm trying to pull up the book. Let's see here. Oh, of course. Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't have this book downloaded on my phone. Huh. Bitch.
Oh.
So, like, the ebook edition was like, the ebook edition on iTunes is 492 pages long. So it's a decent read, but it's very short. It's not that long. So of course, this is where the book ends. City of Bones, I can definitely say, is just more like pretty much with any pilot book. It's just it sets the foundation, it sets the cornerstone for how the rest of the series will be played out, how the story will be built on. It sets the basic ideas, everything. So from this, so after the City of Bones, the next book in the series is called City of Ashes. So it's definitely gonna be dramatic, heroic, bold. There's going to be a lot.
Of course.
There's going to be a lot of teenage angst because two of the main characters are going to be pining over each other.
Yeah.
But they can't be with each other because siblings.
They're related. Icky.
Yep. So that was one of the biggest complaints about the story was because the romance in this story was because the two main characters were thought to be siblings.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do much to like staunch their romantic feelings for each other. Now, I'm not saying they act on it, but still, all the pining, the way they pined after each other, it was kind of gross because everyone's is working under the assumption that they're related. When you follow the story, you have to go. When you're following the story, you're reading this story for the first time, you're not gonna you have to go based off of what you know already, and what you know now is the fact that they are siblings, and it's like now everybody's uncomfortable, and which I gotta say is a good job on Cassandra Clare for making everybody uncomfortable for the next 2 books.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. This was book 1 of the Mortal Instruments, City of Bones. Next week, we are going to be reviewing book 2 of the Mortal Instruments, the City of Ashes.
City of Ashes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, until next time.
Bye.
Bye.